طلع البدر علينا من ثنيات الوداع وجب الشكر علينا ما دعا لله داع.
Okay, there are many questions. A lot of them are very deep and interesting, and others are lesser, so if you like. But alhamdulillah, all are essential to be answered. One of the brothers asks, or the sisters, I don't know, is the law of USA, you have just called it kufr. Can you elaborate on that? I never said the law of USA is kufr. I didn't phrase it like that. What I said was to give the right of legislation to other than Allah is kufr. That's what I said. To give the right of legislation. When I say right, I mean moral and not legal. There is a difference. Let me explain here to you now. According to the Sharia, our Sharia, non-Muslims who pay the jizya can have their own courts for certain matters. Not for criminal offenses, that's a different thing. For private matters and whatnot, family and divorce, our Sharia actually allows them to judge by their laws within themselves. Okay? In an up and running Islamic state, 100% Islamic, the ideal Islamic state, Christians and Jews would have a different law than we would. For example, if they were to drink alcohol, nobody would punish them. Look at the irony of Islamic law, the beauty of Islamic law. A Muslim is caught drinking, he will be lashed 100 times. A Christian is caught drinking in his house or whatever, if you drink in public it's an offense because you are spreading immorality. But if he's caught drinking in a private place, okay, Muslims think it's something bad and they take him to Islamic court, no offense. It's not his Sharia. He's allowed to drink. It's a part of his Sharia to allow it. And similarly, they would be allowed to take things to their courts. Therefore, legally, these laws, which for us are un-Islamic laws, are allowed. Morally, we would say in an Islamic state it's not allowed. Imagine the situation has been reversed. We're not living in an Islamic state. We're living in a state where the constitution is law of the land. Once again, by differentiation between legality and morality, and we have to develop this. I'm not giving a solution. We should be able to, for example, phrase something like legally speaking. Legally, in a political sense, legally, not in an ethical or religious sense. This is what they have the right to do. Religiously, ethically, morally, I believe only Allah has the right to legislate. This is the way it should be phrased. When does it become obligatory to make hijrah? When does it become obligatory to make hijrah? And then examples are given and whatnot. Really, these examples are not what makes it obligatory. It is the concept. It is the general concept of being forced to do major sins or being prevented from wajibat. If you're prevented from what is mustahab, that doesn't obligate hijrah. If you're prevented from doing something which is encouraged, that's not going to make it haram. But if you're prevented from the bare wajibat, you're prevented from praying, from declaring your Islam, from being free to worship Allah alone, that is where you would have to emigrate. Likewise, if you're forced to do a major sin, or of course much worse, shirk, if you're forced to do it, then that would be a problem. The question was asked about the case of France and the hijab issue. It is not that simplistic. They have not banned the hijab, brothers and sisters. They have said you cannot wear a hijab at a public school. Big difference between the two. Which means you can wear hijab at private schools. Which means you can get a home education. Which means you can wear hijabs in universities but not in high schools. Okay? Which means in the streets you can wear hijab. They have not banned the hijab outright. They have said in public schools only it is illegal. I cannot comment on whether that is enough to obligate hijrah or not. The scholars of the land need to, the scholars of their land, the scholars of France need to, there are Islamic schools up and running. Perhaps this is an incentive for the Muslims to spread the knowledge of Islamic schools and make sure that their daughters go there. And other scenarios can also be envisioned. Okay, the question is, now we're getting overwhelmed with questions. What time are we going till, by the way? I need to end the time so that I know exactly. What time are we going till? 10:30. Let's be realistic. Okay, so are Doritos halal? I got an email from one of the brothers saying your new name should be Shaikh Doritos for the article that I have written. I have written an article that's online saying that it is halal to eat Doritos. I said it's halal, I didn't say it's healthy. Big difference between the two, okay? I said it's halal. You can read the article on www.muslimmatters.org, muslimmatters.org. I have written a 7-page article, you can look it up over here. Okay, sisters, if one of our goals is not to establish Islam, then why did the Prophet ﷺ establish an Islamic state, and why did the Sahaba and Khulafa Rashidun, do this and that, and why does, it's so important? Again, brothers and sisters, we have to be very careful about understanding what I said and not reading into it. I never said that it is not of the goals of Islam to establish a khilafah. I said it cannot be the goals of Western Muslims to establish a khilafah where they live. There is a big difference between the two. There is no doubt that the ideal Islamic scenario is that Muslims live in the laws of Islam. You cannot deny this. This is the ideal. Muslims should be living in a place where Islam flourishes, where the laws of Islam are being practiced, where the Sharia is established. But the world we live in is far from this ideal world. In fact, the majority of Muslim countries, and can even be said all Muslim countries, all of them, without exception, do not establish the Sharia in its entirety. Hence, there is no doubt of Islam in that sense. I'm not saying they're not Muslim, but there is no doubt of Islam. What I am saying, we as Americans cannot make it our goal to establish a khilafah here in America. That's what I said. If you want to quote me, quote this. I never said the Muslims of Egypt should not want to establish a khilafah. The Muslims of Pakistan, the Muslims of Indonesia, I never said that. I'm talking about us as a minority in a non-Muslim land. It cannot be our goal while we live here amongst them that we say, look, our goal is this. It cannot be. It's foolish, and it's also, in my opinion, un-Islamic for us. And I say it's un-Islamic for us because it's not our responsibility. Leave it to the responsibility of other people. I'm not saying anything about them, I'm saying for us. And the role models that we have is the fact that the Prophet ﷺ sent a group of Muslims to Abyssinia to live there for 10 years, for around 10 years. Yeah, they lived there for around a decade. And they did not aim to establish a Sharia in Abyssinia. Even though there was an Islamic state in Medina up and running. Our role model, no doubt, is the Prophet ﷺ. But our situation is the Abyssinian more than it is the Medina. Our situation is the Abyssinian one, where we're living as a minority in a pluralistic society. Abyssinia was pluralistic in the sense the Najashi allowed Muslims to live there and worship Allah. It was not so pluralistic. The Muslims of Abyssinia never aimed to convert the entire kingdom into Dawah Islam. They never did so. Rather, they kept to themselves, they lived amongst themselves, they practiced Islam amongst themselves, and they gave da'wah. Najashi himself converted, they gave da'wah. So our context and situation is Abyssinian in that regard. I'm not saying the ideal is not Medina. I'm saying we are living in a type of Abyssinia. With, of course, many differences, no doubt. I'm not saying you just cut and paste it, but I'm saying the overall situation is more Abyssinian than it is Medina.